It's ironic that we talk about this, a lot of the people that probably come through your workshops and a lot of people that are out there helping people to get better. From when you listen to your explanation of health, mind, body, how it's all connected, it seems as though it would be generally a profession for older, wiser, very well educated, almost like what you would see as a doctor, like the ideal, if you had to sort of imagine a picture of somebody that did the things that you're talking to, it probably wouldn't be what you see in a lot of cases in traditional fitness areas. And it just kind of makes me sort of wonder, maybe those people are out there, but it seems as though the fitness space, certainly that we operate in, there could be a slightly different vision for it, where you would have these people that are probably correctly paid for what they do, correctly able to like if you get align people on some of the stuff you're doing, it would totally transform their life. They wouldn't just sort of lose a little bit of weight. It would make such a big difference in their life. But for whatever reason, it seems as though we're still, in general, struggling to get people beyond where they are at the moment, which is looking at the people in the fitness industry and fitness professionals as someone that will help them lose a little bit of weight, and they kind of yo-yo in and out of different diets and different fads. And I wondered, what do you think would help to maybe, I know this is a huge question, but as a dream, what do you think it would help to sort of shift this sort of gimmicky perception of what people have from the fitness industry into something that could be a genuine alternative to medicine and all these other things that are out there? Because
the answer is simple: education.
Right.
Remember in our podcast we did together, we talked about the fact that what used to be conferences for health and fitness educators is now just a bunch of equipment and manufacturers and supplement providers controlling the whole thing and bringing in people only to convince everybody that you can do everything with a Reebok core board or some stepper or some magic pill. So what's happened, and they used to pay experts like me to come in, now you've got to pay to be there. So the whole education arena for health and fitness providers has gone exactly the same way government. We don't have a government, we have a corporate headquarters. We don't have freedom, we have corporations telling us what we must do with our bodies, what we must eat, not eat. And so what you have now is not learning how to think, but being taught what you must think in order to be in our profession or to be a doctor. And so you've got all these guidelines that you must meet, many of which go completely against honesty and the Hippocratic Oath and doing what's best for yourself or other people, which is dangerous. So it all begins with education. Right? And the reason I've been able to really impact even just the exercise industry is because I educated people. And when I'm teaching them so obvious, it hits them over the head. They go, oh my God, it's so obvious. Mm-hmm. Like, years and years ago when I released my Flatten Your Abs Forever presentations, I started teaching them in conferences all over. It would blow people's mind because they'd sit through a 2-hour lecture where I never showed them a single exercise, but I showed them 25 other things that would stop you from flattening your abs forever. And so they walk out of there with their heads just completely going, oh my God, I had no idea. No wonder my 1,000,000 crunches a week's not doing a damn thing for me, right? I'm the strongest fat person in town. It all boils down to education. And one of the things you said earlier is important too. Even though a lot of people that come into an education system like mine are young and they're being taught mature adult concepts, people that gravitate towards my teachings are often aware that the things that they've tried haven't worked. And the reason they're coming is because they've read my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, or applied information in my YouTube videos, or taken an online course, or attended workshops with me, done something and had it transform their life. I mean, I've got hundreds of letters from all over the world from people who parents got their kids and themselves off medical drugs and got healthy just from following my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. Cancer's disappearing. I mean, crazy stuff that just makes me full of joy because it makes all the challenges of my life worth it, right? So the point I'm making is that the people that come to me have usually already hit the bottom, found that something I taught really worked, and realized if a little bit works, then a lot more would probably do a lot better. And the other thing is that just because somebody's young doesn't mean that their soul is young, right? Certainly you've met children that are very wise.
Yeah, and when I say that, I am generalizing, and you know, it was more explaining. Okay, you come out of school, instead of going and working in a supermarket, you become a personal trainer, and that's, you know, a first step, as opposed to it being a career where you go and study for many years and you become a doctor. You know, that's a slightly different approach. But
yeah,
but I go on, carry on. I agree with what you're saying.
Well, I think one of the big problems, as I mentioned earlier, a physical therapist or a chiropractor has to do usually 4 years of schooling, but we don't have a personal training profession. We've got something where you can, you know, do as little as idea and pass 75 multiple choice questions on a internet test, and now all of a sudden you're a personal trainer, but you really haven't got a damn clue what you're doing.
Yeah, I think you can do it in a few. There's some very short, very inexpensive, like, you know, $500 or $600 and an online course, and you can become a, you know, level 3 PT. I'm not sure exactly that amount, but I know there's some very quick, you know, do this and you're able to go out there and, you know, hit clients.
Yes. And so you see, what we don't have a real exercise profession, and we don't have an exercise vocation. And you can't have a real exercise profession or vocation that is absent of an understanding of nutrition, hydration, sleep, breathing, thinking, and movement, because those are all the factors that either support your ability to recover from exercise and manage stress. And if you don't have a science for knowing how to determine how much physiological load there is in different systems of the body, you have no way to know whether your exercise dose is therapeutic or destructive. You understand? Mm-hmm. Like, the greatest athlete in the world that's lacking sleep is at risk. The greatest athlete in the world eating junk food is putting themselves at risk of shortening their career. So because all stresses in the body summate, they add together, your total stress response is mental, emotional, physical, biochemical, combined, right? You can't walk into the gym and leave your divorce at the front door, leave your bank account at the front door, and leave your sex life at the front door. All of it goes to the platform with you. All of it's holding the dumbbell with you. But here we have a bunch of people that design exercise programs based on the illusion that none of those things matter, or they're completely ignorant of how they influence a person, right? And you've been lifting weights long enough to know that if you're under a lot of stress or having a relationship challenge or a serious business challenge, weights get heavy. You go into the gym and everything feels heavy. And you know it's not your weightlifting, it's that you're being drained emotionally or mentally, or you're in pain inside. And because of that is a real drain on your vitality, your life force energy, you can't put the same into an external activity when you have an internal entanglement that needs to be dealt with. And if you try, you'll get hurt. I've seen it happen a million times. So the point is that we've got to go from putting some shit on a shingle and calling yourself an exercise professional to deciding whether or not we want to make this a vocation and use the knowledge and the science that we have as to what a human being really is, which means you're going to have an integrated, holistic approach, or you're always going to be at risk of injuring people with exercise in the name of trying to help them.
And I thought that would also go towards the thing we spoke about earlier, like, what's the purpose? Is, are you there to help people do some squats and bench press and that, or are you, is your purpose really to make an impact on all the areas of someone's life? And certainly for me, probably the later one would seem to have a lot more depth and meaning and purpose, and also if financial is your goal, that as well.
Yeah. The other thing is, one of the challenges is to be a legitimate exercise or fitness professional, taking everything I've just shared in that regard. It's a much deeper venture for the individual, because you can't teach what you don't have. You can't give what you don't have. My students are tasked first and foremost to apply the teachings in their own life. Otherwise, you just become a cut and paste expert, and you never have any real confidence in yourself, and people sense your own insecurity at an unconscious level. Mm-hmm. this is why you can have people in a gym that sound really cool and they've got lots of degrees, but somehow they never have a good business. But some guy over there that's not near as smart as them, but really loves what they're doing, is really in themselves and really passionate, has this huge business. And Smarty Pants over here is going, that idiot over there has a lot more clients than me. Why is that? The point I'm making is that to really be good at anything, we first have to be good at it in ourselves. So that means you have to learn about managing your diet. You have to learn about your own inner hygiene. You got to learn to work with your own mind. You have to learn to recognize how important sleep is and have sleep hygiene and be honest with yourself. You have to learn how to sense when you're getting out of balance and be responsible enough to put yourself back into balance. Or what happens is you just tell people to do stuff that you're not willing to do. And because you're actually educating the client, there always comes a time when the client or the patient or the student of the trainer or the therapist knows enough to begin to analyze you. So what it looks like is this, and this has happened to lots of my students, and I always warn them it's going to happen. I say, if you are eating gluten and you're all swollen and puffy and you got gas and you got skin problems, and you're sitting there telling your client that these are the symptoms of gluten intolerance, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, or 5, or 10 visits. And they're going to look at you and say, I've noticed you have all these problems. How long have you been eating gluten and why do you still do it? And that's the death stroke. Mm-hmm. Because now you have to face your own game and your own insecurities. So what you see is professionals will leave that part out of their approach because they don't want the insecurities and the risk of being called out. So I challenge all my students to eat, sleep, breathe, and shit their teachings so that when you go to work, you don't have to memorize anything. You don't have to be an intellectual genius and have a head like a Rolodex. You just show people how you do it every day.
Exactly.
You say, this is what a poop looks like. This is what it should smell like. This is what your pee should be like. This is how you proportion your meals. This is how you pay attention to when you got too much fat, too much plant foods, or too much animal foods in your diet. You show them what you do on a daily basis, and then you have this ease and comfort. And if you run into a challenge, you say, oh, that's a great one. I'm going to have to do some research on that. And you go look into it. But it doesn't mean that you're not practicing. It means you're now exploring with the person. And since you're the professional, you're probably the one that should be able to understand the science behind it and dig deeper into it and make a sense of meaning out of it. And this is where the magic comes, because you start doing research to help other people and you learn more about yourself and you go, holy shit, now I know why I've had this problem. Or, how I can use this. Or now I know 6 other people that have this problem that I didn't even realize was there. So when you embody what you teach, then every client actually opens the doorway to a deeper penetration, not only into your coaching abilities and your skill as a therapist, but into yourself. And to me, that's just the magic of this profession. It's a never-ending learning curve. There is no way you can get bored unless there's something wrong with you, unless you're doing the wrong thing. I've never gotten bored. If you go out there and look at my chair where I sit every morning and do my studies, there's at least 150 books piled up there. Those are all the books.
There's God knows how many behind this.
Well, yes, and I've read thousands of them. But those are the books that I'm trying to get to because I know there's something in them that I need to help somebody else or help myself. What I'm saying is after 39 years, I'm as passionate today about learning and growing as I was when I was 22. Why? Because the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Knowledge is horizontal. No matter how fast you run, the horizon keeps moving away. So some would say, oh my God, I'll never know enough. And I'll say, that's fantastic because it means you're on a legitimate journey. And that makes it exciting and interesting because the day you think you know where you're going for sure, you stop paying attention, you stop asking questions, and you stop growing.